My name is Akankshya Upadhyay and I am your English instructor. In today's class, we will do a little bit of free writing and learn how to write an essay. Let's begin the class by knowing what an essay is. An essay is a piece of writing which is usually short on a particular subject. An essay generally contains author's own argument. So if I'm writing an essay, that essay is going to contain my own argument because I'm going to write what I feel about the topic. So in essay, we usually describe, clarify, argue, and analyze a topic. So in an essay, the topic is described, clarified, argued upon, or analyzed. Now we'll look at the steps to write an essay. Always keep in your mind that while writing an essay, you must have an objective. And also, you are a neutral person, so your thoughts should be neutral. So the first thing that you would want to do while writing an essay is to read the question twice. So reading the question twice means you need to understand what the topic demands. Unless and until you understand what the topic is and what should be involved in the essay under the heading of the topic, you must read the questions. So read it until you understand. If you don't understand when you read it once, read it twice. If you don't understand, read it 3 times. And even if you don't understand after reading it for 3 times, go for the 4th time. But read the question until and unless you understand what the topic demands. Next, you need to research on the topic. So unless you're sitting for an exam and writing an essay, you can research it. You cannot research while giving an exam, but while you're writing an essay for yourself, for an assignment or anything, you can always research on the topic. So have clear points about the topic. Next, you would want to brainstorm. Now, brainstorming your ideas is a really important skill that you must have. So you must brainstorm the ideas before writing any essay. So if you have 20 minutes time to complete an essay, the suggestion that I would give is take 3 to 4 minutes of the 20 minutes to brainstorm your ideas. Because this is the most important part, and your essay is going to be effective if you brainstorm ideas and if you structure your essay properly. Now, while brainstorming the ideas, you must list the points. So whatever comes in your mind about the topic, list them up. Now, once you start pointing out what comes in your mind, the next thing that you must do is to arrange the structure. Now, arranging the structure means you can then decide, after listing the bullets, you can decide which part is going to be the introduction part. So you can decide which one is going to be for your intro, which for the body, and which point is best for the conclusion. So once you do this, your essay is going to be really effective because you know what parts to include where. So this is going to be a good one if you do it this way. Therefore, brainstorming ideas, listing them and arranging them makes essay writing way easier. So this helps to structure our essay really well. So while brainstorming the ideas, you can also include your main ideas. So you can say which one is going to be your main idea. So once you do this, the first main idea can be the body paragraph, the first body paragraph for your essay, and the second main idea can be the second body paragraph for your essay. So always try to brainstorm your ideas and classify them into which section you would want to mention them. So once you've brainstormed your ideas, Now you would want to begin your writing. So for writing, the first thing you do is choose a thesis statement for the essay. Now, what is a thesis statement? Your thesis statement should always be strong. Now, while beginning your essay, while brainstorming our ideas, we had several main ideas. So with the collection of some strong points or strong ideas, make a thesis statement. The thesis statement of your essay is explaining the reader about what the essay is about. So a thesis statement usually describes or lets the reader know about what ideas or what the essay is actually about. So thesis statement lets the reader know where you are going and why. So this is generally expressing the ideas of the essay. So always remember your thesis statement should be strong. Now, once you're done with the thesis statement, once you pick a thesis statement, you would want to mention it in the introduction section of your essay. So introduction is going to be the first paragraph of your essay. The introduction is the first paragraph of the essay, and thesis statement generally lies in the introduction part. So what the essay is about is actually in the introduction section, and usually the last sentence of first paragraph, that is the last sentence of the introduction paragraph, must be a thesis statement. However, this is not a hard and fast rule. You can always keep your thesis statement in between your introduction or towards the beginning of the introduction paragraph, but you must keep it in the introduction section. So in the introduction part, you are basically creating background. Once you start creating the background, you are letting the reader know about the essay and the topic. And then you place the thesis statement which says what exactly is in the essay. So background is just giving a brief introduction to the topic, and the thesis statement is letting the reader know about what you have included in the essay about the topic. So you must do it accordingly. Now, once you are done with the introduction section, then comes the body part. Remember the main ideas that we listed while brainstorming. So these main ideas will be in the body section. So divide your body part into 3 paragraphs. The first, second, and third. In the first paragraph of body section, you can elaborate the main idea that you thought while brainstorming. In the second paragraph, you can write about the advantages or disadvantages. And similarly, in the third paragraph, if you've written about the advantage in the second one, you can write about disadvantage in the third paragraph. And in the first paragraph, you can elaborate about the topic and convey your main ideas and then elaborate it. In the second main idea or in the second paragraph, you can mention about its advantages, and in the third paragraph, you can mention about the disadvantages. Now here again comes the concept of thesis statement. The thesis statement that we mentioned earlier was for the entire essay. Now, you can also write the thesis statement in the body paragraphs. But how? Always mention your thesis statement for one paragraph in the first paragraph. So if you're writing about disadvantages or advantages of a certain thing, you can have a thesis statement. And this thesis statement is going to let the readers know about what is going to be mentioned in the second paragraph. Similarly, another thesis statement for third paragraph lets the reader know what is included in this paragraph. So in this way, you can write thesis statement for every body paragraphs. And finally, when you're done with the body section, you would want to conclude your essay. So while concluding your essay, you just summarize everything. Always remember, so the first point is the summary. And then you'll have an added advantage if you conclude your essay with a command. So your essay should be commanding. Also, it is always better if you leave your essay or end your essay with an open-ended question. So in this way, you can conclude your essay. Now, while writing the body paragraph and the conclusion, you're writing and also the introduction, you're writing 5 paragraphs in an essay. Now remember that your reader should never be disconnected. They should not get disconnected. And for that, your paragraphs needs to be in flow. So remember to have your paragraphs in a great flow. One paragraph should always be connected to the other, and the second paragraph should be connected to the third one. In this way, the reader is in flow and he is not getting distracted. Suppose we are writing an essay about microwave oven, and if you are explaining about some of the features in microwave in first paragraph of your body, and then you're going to some different topic in the second paragraph, the paragraph will not be in flow. Now, once you're done with your conclusion, you are not done with your essay writing yet. So another very important thing that you're missing is checking your grammar and spelling. Once you're done with your essay writing, go through it once again and then check if you're grammatically correct and your spellings are right. With these kind of mistakes, people usually get turned off really fast. So try avoiding your grammar and spelling mistakes. And finally, when you're done with everything, one last suggestion I would like to give is to ask your friends for review. Books never get published by multiple editors and authors proofreading the same material again and again. So similarly, while writing an essay, you need to review it. So try giving it to your friends and ask for feedbacks and then write it again. Now finally, I would like to give you a few tips. So here are the few tips to make your writing more effective. The first one, as I've already mentioned, and I just want to focus it again, is to research. So research your topic before you write it down. Second is to be neutral. Always try to look at two different perspectives of a single story. Never take any one side. So always be neutral. The third one is very important. That is the sense of humor or sarcasm. You can be sarcastic rather than being straightforward. So you can add some sense of humor if you can. Because a reader, if I am checking an examination paper and I will go through 20 different essays, so it will be really refreshing and fun for the reader to have a sarcastic or a humorous essay. So if you can add some humor in the essay, you can always do that. The next one is, do not repeat same words. If you do, your essay is going to be very monotonous. So try avoiding the same words. So try avoiding same words for the essay, as your essay is going to be really monotonous. And finally, and strictly say no to plagiarism. So if you are really influenced by an idea that is not your idea, you can always include it but paraphrase it. And finally, if the question has asked you to write an essay in 300 words, don't exceed it, because no one really wants to read more. So if you have something to say, 300 words is not much as well. So don't exceed it and don't write less than 300 words either. So be conscious about the word limit. So remember, if the question says you to write in 300 words, make sure your essay is no less than 300 words and your essay is no more than 300 words. And if you keep these things in your mind, your essay is going to be a great one. So now we are going to write an essay and implement all of these steps that we just discussed. The title of our essay is How I Learned Swimming. Remember the steps that we just listed. The first one was to research. This is a narrative essay. So narrative essay means, so this is going to be a narrative essay. Narrative essay means that I am going to narrate you about what is actually happening or what actually happened. So in these kind of essays, we usually don't need to research. Now we're going to write an essay and the topic is How I Learned Swimming. So the first thing that we need to do is read the topic twice and understand what actually the topic demands or the topic is expecting us to write. So How I Learned Swimming is of course going to be my experience about how I learned swimming. So this is a pretty straightforward essay topic. The next thing that we need to do is research on topic. Now, How I Learned Swimming is a narrative essay. In narrative essay, we usually don't need a lot of essay because this has already happened. I have already learned swimming, so I know what had happened. So I can easily write it down. So this is going to be a narrative essay. Next, we are going to brainstorm the ideas. Now, while brainstorming the ideas, I am going to list few points that comes to my mind when I read the topic. So swimming was always a hard job for me. And I also know that swimming is an important skill. So I know that swimming makes me healthy, and the confidence that can be built. Now, the other ideas that I wish to include is I would like to say what happened on that day. And again, I would like to mention what happened on the day and how I felt on the very day. And then again, I would also like to mention about how was my friend's reaction, or how were my friends and the companions. I would also like to mention about what next. So what happened after swimming, I thought. And of course, I would like to mention about what I learned. So once I have brainstormed the ideas, now I would want to structure them and see which points will be best for the conclusion part, which is going to be the best for the introduction part. So I think explaining about swimming and its importance, so these points can be the introduction part for me. And what happened on the day can be the body part. So again, in the body portion, I can mention about what I felt in the first paragraph of my body and what was my friend's reaction, or how were they reacting. So this could be the second paragraph, and what next could probably be the third body paragraph for my essay. And then what I learned from the experience can definitely be my conclusion. So in this way, I'm going to structure my essay. Now let's begin. So we had listed how hard swimming is, or how hard I thought swimming was for me, and how important a skill swimming is, and also it makes me healthy, and then how confident I realized that swimming could be. So these were the points that I had listed while brainstorming my ideas, and now I will include these points in preparing an introduction for my essay. Learning something new can be a scary experience. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do was learn how to swim. I was always afraid of the water, but decided that swimming was an important skill that I should learn. Also, I thought it would be good exercise and help me to become physically stronger. What I didn't realize was that learning to swim would also make me a more confident person. So I've already mentioned that swimming I thought was the hardest things to do ever. And I've also mentioned the importance of swimming, how important skill swimming is, as it's making me physically stronger and healthy. And I became more confident once I learned swimming. So in this way, we have prepared the introduction section for this essay. Next, we were going to mention about what happened on the very day in the first paragraph of the body section. So the essay has mentioned about what happened on the very day. And in this paragraph, the essay is mentioning about the person who learned swimming, how he felt on that very day. New situations always make me a bit nervous, and my first swimming lesson was no exception. After I changed into my bathing suit in the locker room, I stood timidly by the side of the pool waiting for the teacher and other students to show up. After a couple of minutes, the teacher came over. She smiled and introduced herself. She smiled and introduced herself, and two more students joined us. Although they were both older than me, they didn't seem to be embarrassed about not knowing how to swim. I began to feel more at ease. So here, the essay is trying to explain about what he felt, what the swimmer actually felt while learning swimming for the first time on the very day. Now in the second paragraph, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about the friends and the companions. So notice that the transition between this paragraph and another paragraph is going to be smooth, because here in this essay, it's already mentioned. Notice that the transition is going to be smoother because in the essay we've already mentioned about other people joining us in the swimming experience. So while I went to learn swimming for the first time, the essay has mentioned about how swimming actually happened for me, for the author, and then the essay introduces about two other people. So in the second paragraph, we are now going to write about what other people or the friends were like on the first day. So now we are writing about what was the reaction of my friend or the companion and how were they like. We got into the pool and the teacher had us put on brightly colored water wings to help us stay afloat. One of the other students, May, had already taken the beginning class once before. So she took a kickboard and went splashing off by herself. The other student, Jerry, and I were told to hold on to the side of the pool and shown how to kick for the breaststroke. One by one, the teacher had us hold on to a kickboard while she pulled it through the water and we kicked. Pretty soon, Jerry was off doing this by himself, traveling at a fast clip across the short end of the pool. So here, the essay mentions about how the friends were learning. And next, we were going to mention about what next. So the essay begins. Things were not quite that easy for me, but the teacher was very patient. After a few more weeks, when I seemed to have caught on with my legs, she taught me the arm strokes. Now I had two things to concentrate on, my arms and my legs. I felt hopelessly uncoordinated. Sooner than I imagined, however, things began to feel right, and I was able to swim. It was a wonderful free feeling, like flying maybe, to be able to shoot across the water. So here the essay mentions about how right the swimmer feels and what he plans next. And finally, for the conclusion, the essay is going to mention about what the swimmer learned or what I learned. Learning to swim was not easy for me, but in the end of my persistence paid off. Not only did I learn how to swim and to conquer my feet off the water, but I also learned something about learning. Not only did I learn how to swim and to conquer my feet off the water, but I also earned something about learning. Now when I am faced with a new situation, I am not so nervous. I may feel uncomfortable to begin with, but I know that as practice being in that situation and as my skills get better, I will feel more and more comfortable. It is a wonderful free feeling when you achieve a goal you have set for yourself. So this is how the essay concludes. You're summing up everything that you just said and the experience, of course, and then we're writing about what we learned, what I learned. So this is the end to our writing. However, we are not done with so many things yet. Now, what we need to do is proofread the essay once again. So proofreading means going through the essay again. So we will go through the paragraphs once again, and I have chosen this paragraph to proofread. However, we need to proofread the whole essay. Learning to swim was not easy for me, but in the end, my persistence paid off. Not only did I learn how to swim and to conquer my feet off the water, but I also earned something about learning. So this sentence seems to have a spelling error. Now here, but I also learned something about learning. So this makes more sense and the spelling of learned was incorrect. Now, when I'm faced with a new situation, I'm not so nervous. So here we've missed an I. So let's read it once again. Now, when I'm faced with a new situation, I am not so nervous. So this makes sense. I may feel uncomfortable to begin with, but know that as practice being in that situation and as my skills get better. So this sentence is disastrous. This is not a perfect sentence. Let's correct it. I may feel uncomfortable to begin with, but I know, and notice that W is capital here. So let's write I, and then notice that the W is capital here, which is not required. So I know that as practice being in that situation. So here, as is not required, so we can write with. I may feel uncomfortable to begin with, but I know that with practice, being in that situation, and as my skills get better, I will feel more and more comfortable. So now this sentence makes a good sense. It is a wonderful free feeling. So we've missed a full stop here. So this sentence now makes good sense. Further, we read, it is a wonderful free feeling when you achieve a goal you have set for yourself. So here we don't need the W capital. So we correct it. It is a wonderful free feeling when you achieve a goal you have set for yourself. Now this paragraph is correct. In this way, we can proofread our paragraphs and then correct it. See, we have found so many mistakes. If you don't proofread it, you won't find any. And in this way, we finish our essay writing. The homework for today's class is, as you've already expected, to write an essay about. So the homework question for today's class is to write an essay about my first day at school. So this is a similar topic, and I really hope you can do it easily. Don't forget to use the tips that we have listed in today's class. This is all for today. If you have any questions, any suggestions, or anything that you wish to share with us, please feel free to write to us at learning@dearwalk.edu.np. Thanks for watching.